Seeing three men beating one in a dark alley, she decided to help and got into a fight. She didn't know that the Mafia boss staged it all. Now she belongs to him. Escape means death. Let's go back a week. Enjoy. Amira runs. Water pours from the sky in a solid wall of ice. She holds her messenger bag under her arm, covering it with the hem of her soaked windbreaker. The city asphalt glistens under the yellow streetlights, turning into a black mirror. She hates this downpour. She hates the cold that creeps under her clothes. She has a last delivery, and she's late. The clock ticks mercilessly. She quickens her pace, breaking into a trot. Ahead lies a long, brightly lit street. It will take another 10 minutes. To the right yawns a dark passage, a narrow gap between the facade of a hardware store and the blank wall of the adjacent building. It's a dirty alley, smelling of trash and damp, but it's a shortcut. Amira hesitates for a second. Then she turns sharply into the darkness. Her sneakers splash through puddles, mingling with the sound of the rain. It's almost impossible to see here, only a glimmer of streetlight at the beginning and end of the alley. She picks her way, hugging the wall. She's already halfway there when her gaze catches movement ahead. 4 people stand against the far wall, in deep shadow. 3 in dark, expensive, tailored coats surround one other. Their postures say it all, shoulders back, bodies leaning forward. It's a stance of aggression, of pressure. The man in the center, his back to the brickwork, stands up straight, but he's trapped. One of the 3 is saying something, pointing a finger almost at his chest. Rain trickles down their shoulders. Amira's body tightens before she can even think. The muscles in her back and legs tense into a single tight rope. Her breathing becomes quieter, shallower. She stops. Her brain makes its first assessment, 3 against 1. 2 of the attackers have their hands free, but one holds something long and thin at his hip. A folded umbrella, perhaps, or perhaps not. The other constantly glances around, on guard. The man against the wall doesn't look away. His face in the semi-darkness seems carved from stone. No fear, no anger, only cold, absolute attention. It is the face of an Asian man, about 45 years old, wearing a perfectly clean, but now damp coat. Her hand tightens on the strap of her bag. An old habit, to evaluate the weight of an object in her hand as a possible weapon. She'd practiced this hundreds of times as a cadet. The downpour drowns out her words, but she sees one of the 3 shove the man in the shoulder with his palm, demonstratively, humiliatingly. Humiliation is key. It's the one trait her principles don't allow her to simply ignore. She's already taking a step forward, her heel digging into the slippery cobblestones, bracing for the push. She's not thinking save, she's thinking stop, now. The words carry through the sound of the rain. The voice of one of the 3, the one standing closest to the victim, cuts the air. It's not a scream. It's a calm, whining mockery, deliberately devoid of even the emotion of anger. Even a dog on the street understands when it's been shown its place, the voice says. And you stand there, like a monument. This stupidity needs to be beaten out of you, drop by drop. The other man, the broader one, gives a short, dry smile. The third, watching, nods silently. The man against the wall doesn't respond. His silence seems even more unbearable to his attackers. The one who spoke makes a sharp movement with his hand, not to strike, but to slap the man across the cheek, humiliatingly, like a naughty child. It is this gesture, this tone, a mixture of contempt and complete confidence in his impunity, that becomes the last straw for Amory. This violates her internal, unwritten rules. Strength against weakness is one thing, but this ritual of humiliation, this reduction of a person to nothingness, that's something else entirely. Fragmented images flash through her memory. Shouts on the parade ground. Dull stares. The desire to break not the body, but the will. She hates it with every fiber of her being. Her brain shuts down. Something deeper, more animalistic, more righteous, is triggered, more subtle than any trained reflex. Her feet, already half-turned, push off the slippery stone. She doesn't run. She takes 3 quick, powerful steps forward, closing the distance. Her movement isn't stealthy, it's direct and noisy. Water splashes beneath her soles. Hey! Her voice, low and sharp as a whip, cuts through the monotonous roar of the downpour. The sound is unnaturally loud in the narrow alleyway. All 4 flinch and turn their heads. The 3 attackers look at them with poorly concealed irritation, as if they were being pestered by a fly. Their prey, Minho. His gaze flickers to her for a split second. There's no hope or gratitude in his dark, lightless eyes, only a momentary cold reassessment of the situation. The emergence of a new factor. Wider one growls, not leaving Minho's side. It's none of your business. The one who had been on guard, watching, breaks away from the wall. His face, narrow and pale, is contorted with disgusted annoyance. He looks at Amira, assessing her. The girl, the messenger bag, the wet gym clothes. No obvious threat. A nuisance. She needs to be removed quickly so the conversation can continue. I said go away, he repeats, more quietly, but with a steely edge to his voice, and begins moving toward her. His steps are confident, heavy. His hands are relaxed, but Amira sees the fingers of his right hand curl slightly, preparing to grab or strike. He plans to finish it all in one motion, grab her by the jacket, slam her head against the wall, or simply throw her into the dirt. He doesn't even speed up. This is the approach to a pesky little dog. He reaches out to grab her shoulder, slowly, almost casually. Amira doesn't back down. Her body knows what to do. When his fingers almost touch the wet fabric of her windbreaker, she takes a short step forward and sideways, inside his perimeter. Her left hand moves upward, her forearm slamming into his outstretched arm at the elbow, disrupting his trajectory. It's not a block, it's a redirection of force. He doesn't expect it. His balance, already undermined by confidence, is momentarily disrupted. His weight is already shifted forward. That moment is enough for her. Her right hand, still clutching the strap of her bag, describes a short, sharp arc, not intended to strike. The heavy, wet bag, with all the momentum of her step and the twist of her body, flies straight into his groin. A dull, soft thud echoes, muffled by the rain and fabric. The air hisses out of his lungs. His entire body convulses, instinctively protecting his vulnerable spot. Pain paralyzes him for a second. His face contorts into a silent scream. Amira doesn't stop. Her left foot, already close to his right, swings under him, not hard, but precise, hitting his ankle just as his entire weight and attention are focused on the pain. His leg buckles. He falls, not with a thud, but with a heavy, wet slap into a puddle, instinctively trying to break his fall with his hands. It all took less than 4 seconds. Amira immediately takes a step back, clearing the space. She drops her bag, now free to move. She positions herself precisely between the fallen man and the other two, who are still standing against the wall with Minho. Her stance is now completely different, feet shoulder-width apart, knees slightly bent, weight on the balls of her feet. Her arms are raised, palms open, ready to defend or grab. It's a professional, neutral stance, not overtly aggressive, but one that communicates complete preparedness. She silently looks at the remaining two, her breathing even. A new, tense silence descends on the alley, broken only by the patter of rain and the hoarse, ragged breathing of the man in the puddle. Shock, cold and instantaneous, is reflected on the faces of the two remaining attackers. Their irritation gives way to cold rage and reassessment. They now see not a nuisance, but a threat that has just quickly and effectively incapacitated one of them. Their attention is completely torn away from Minho. He's a secondary target now. Their entire body, gaze, and intent are focused on Amira. They turn toward her, slowly moving a couple of steps apart to attack from 2 directions. The narrow alley now works against them. Amir's. There is nowhere to retreat. Minho, still pressed against the wall, gets a break. No one holds him anymore. He doesn't try to run. He simply moves half a step away from the wall, straightens up, and crosses his arms over his chest. His face remains inscrutable, but his gaze now studies Amira intently, scanning her stance, the movement of her shoulders, the angle of her head. He's watching. He's become a spectator in his own drama, and in his eyes, perhaps for the first time this evening, something vaguely resembling lively interest appears. Minho doesn't move. He stands with his back against the cold brick wall, his arms crossed over his chest. Rain trickles down his face from his close-cropped hair, but he doesn't even blink. His eyes, narrow and dark, are fixed on Amira. There's no fear, no gratitude, no hope in them. There's only a cold, non-judgmental analysis. He watches her shift her weight from one foot to the other, preparing to move. He sees the angle of her shoulders, the position of her elbows, the brief glances with which she scans both opponents at once. He notes her breathing, even, controlled, despite the situation. It's the breathing of a trained man, conserving his strength. His own face is a mask. He's not just a victim waiting to be rescued. He's an observer, studying a new, unforeseen factor in the equation. The two men begin to move almost simultaneously. The one who was the main talker, the leader, walks straight ahead, tough and assertive. The second, younger and more agile, tries to move in from the side, outflanking her, to pin Amira between himself and the wall. Amira doesn't expect the attack. She takes a short, sharp step toward the leader, closing the distance faster than he expected. This forces him to focus on her rather than trying to get around her. When he throws a straight right hand, quick, sharp, aimed at her solar plexus, she doesn't flinch. She moves in again. Her left forearm slams into his arm from the side, deflecting the blow past her body. At the same time, she delivers a short, sharp blow with the edge of her right palm. Not to him, but to his forearm, near the elbow. It's not meant to break. It's painful. It's distracting. And it triggers his nervous system. He instinctively jerks his hand away. At that moment, the second man attacks from the side, trying to grab her by the neck. Amira, still moving toward the leader, uses his body as a makeshift shield. She abruptly crouches, evading the grab, and somersaults forward, right between the leader's legs. This isn't a graceful acrobatic feat. It's a rough, practical roll on the wet pavement to instantly change position. She leaps to her feet behind the leader. Now she's back between them and Minho. Her goal isn't to defeat them. Her goal is to buy time, to wear them down, to prevent them from focusing on their original objective again. She moves constantly, taking small steps, never staying in one spot for long. She parries, deflects. When the leader tries to kick, she doesn't block his leg, but instead strikes the side of his knee, throwing him off balance. The blow is a glancing blow, but it forces him to take a step back. She breathes through her mouth, evenly. Her muscles burn, but with a familiar, almost habitual fire. She doesn't think. She acts. Every movement she makes is a response to their attack. Every shift is a new barrier on their way to the man at the wall. The leader is clearly losing his composure. His face is contorted with anger. He's been humiliated twice, first by Minho's silent resistance, and now by this girl who's squirming like an eel and refusing to be caught. His patience is running out. Enough! His voice croaks with rage. He takes a step back, and his hand abruptly slips inside his coat. His gaze becomes empty and determined. This is no longer just a lesson or intimidation. His movements take on that finality that bodes ill. Amira sees the gesture. She sees his shoulder tense for a specific movement. Not a punch, but a movement from inside his bosom. Time to dodge and parry is running out. The next attack will be different. She braces herself for the worst, her body coiling into a spring, ready to lunge forward in a desperate attempt to stop him from reaching whatever it is he's about to reach. But the distance between them is too great now for instant intervention. At this moment, movement occurs near the wall. Minho breaks away from the bricks. He takes one calm, unhurried step forward. Just one step. But this step changes the entire geometry of the alley. He is no longer a target against the wall. He becomes an active participant. His arm, still crossed over his chest, straightened. The movement was quick, precise, and devoid of fuss. A small, thin object gleamed in his fingers, not a weapon in the usual sense. It looked like a thick metal pen or rod. But he doesn't attack the leader. He turns to the second, younger attacker, who had just recovered from a failed tackle and was again trying to flank Amira. Minho doesn't hit. He pokes, short, sharp, like a dispatcher stamping a seal. The tip of the rod plunges into a specific spot on the man's neck, just below his ear. There's no scream, but a sharp, hoarse exhalation, as if all the air has been squeezed out of a man. The attacker's eyes widen in shock and sudden, paralyzing pain. His body goes rigid for a moment, then he clutches his neck convulsively, stumbles and falls to his knees, coughing and struggling to breathe. The action takes less than 2 seconds. The quiet, deadly professionalism of the gesture hangs in the air, colder than rain. Minho doesn't even look at the result. He turns his head to the leader, his face still calm. "That's enough, Lee," Minho says. His voice is quiet, even, and doesn't rise. But in the silence that follows his henchman's fall, the words ring deafeningly loud. It's not a request. It's a statement of fact. And in that voice, in his demeanor, something suddenly emerges that radically alters the perception of who is the victim and who is the force here. The leader, his hand still frozen inside his coat, glances from Amira, poised to strike, to Minho, standing over his comrade writhing in pain, to his first man, who is just now coming to in a puddle. Calculations are running on his face with almost visible speed. Fury wars with cold calculation. The situation is out of control. His mission is a failure. Continuing now poses greater problems than retreat. He slowly, very slowly removes his empty hand from his bosom. His gaze, full of silent hatred, slides over Amir, lingering on her for a split second longer, as if capturing her face for memory. Then he looks at Minho. "This isn't the end," he says hoarsely. There's no longer the same confidence in his voice, only anger. He nods to his first fighter, who struggles to his feet. Together, they grab the third, who still can't breathe properly and can barely stand. Without another word, the entire group, breathing heavily and stumbling, begins to retreat toward the end of the alley, away from the street, into the complete darkness. Their silhouettes quickly dissolve into the darkness and curtain of rain. Soon, only the distant sound of splashing footsteps can be heard, and then even that is gone. Only Amira and Minho remain in the alley. The sound of the rain becomes the dominant sound again. The sound of retreating footsteps is drowned out by the roar of the rain. Amira doesn't immediately relax. Her body, filled with adrenaline, continues to hum. She slowly turns on her heels, the soles crunching on the wet asphalt. Her gaze first glides to the far end of the alley, where the three disappeared, then to the nearest exit onto the street. Threat assessment? No one. Only trash cans, dirty puddles, and the same slanting rain. She looks at Minho. He's standing in the same place, drawn up to his full height. He's wiping a small cut on his cheekbone with the back of his hand, likely caused by the ring one of his attackers used during the initial thrust. The movement is calm, as if he's adjusting his tie. Amira takes a step toward him. Her posture is still slightly hunched, her shoulders tense. She doesn't know this man. She just stood up for him. But that doesn't automatically make him safe. "Are you all right?" Her voice is hoarse from the strain. It's her first question, pragmatic. Not, "Who are you?" or "What's going on?" but a damage assessment. Her right hand still clutches the heavy metal flashlight she'd snatched from the wall mid-fight. As a potential weapon, her finger bones are white from the force of her grip. Now she can feel its coldness and weight. Minho lowers his hand. A thin, neat scratch is visible on the back of his hand. He doesn't look at her. His eyes, dark and impenetrable, like smooth stones, are fixed on Amira. He doesn't answer her question. Instead, his gaze moves slowly, scanning her from top to bottom. He sees her stance. Her feet are slightly wider than shoulder-width apart, her weight evenly distributed, her knees slightly bent. Not the aggressive stance of a street fighter, but a neutral, defensive stance, the kind one learns to adopt when an opponent's intentions are unclear. He sees how she holds the flashlight, not like a club for swinging, but like a short staff that can be used for thrusts or blocks. His gaze fixates on her hands, the position of her fingers, the shape of her fist, as she briefly clenches her free left hand. He sees her breathing. She breathes through her nose, deeply and evenly, trying to drown out the racing heartbeat from the fight. It's a technique for regaining control. All of this together, the posture, the grip, the breathing, creates a clear picture for someone who knows what to look for. These are not street fighting skills learned in back alleys. This is a system, professional training, military, or something close to it. "Why?" he asks. Just one word. His voice is quiet but clear, cutting through the rain. It's not about her well-being. It's about motive, about reasons. He asks why a stranger, a courier, would intervene in a dangerous situation she had no connection to. He looks for self-interest, fear, stupidity, but sees only cold determination and control. Amira looks him straight in the eye. There's no challenge in her gaze, but there's no submission either. There's weariness and a stony confidence in her own rightness. Her own quick analysis of the man reveals little. An expensive but not flashy coat, good posture, a face that betrays no emotion. The danger he poses now isn't physical, but something else, one that stems from his overly calm demeanor after the attack. She lowers the lantern. The metal hits her thigh with a dull thud. She loosens her grip, allowing the blood to rush back to her fingers. "I hate bullies!" she snaps. Her voice is flat, emotionless. It's not an excuse, not an explanation. It's simply a fact, blurted out, like a statement of the weather. Those 3 words contain everything, a principle that proved stronger than the instinct for self-preservation. She doesn't say, "I wanted to help," or "I felt sorry for you." She speaks of her personal antipathy toward the strong who oppress the weak, toward those who derive pleasure from humiliation. This motive seems to him simultaneously primitive and incredibly complex, too simple to be true, and too sincere to be a lie. She waits for his reaction, waits for him to say thank you or go away, or ask the next question. But the reaction does not come from him. From the far end of the alley, the very one where the attackers had disappeared, a new sound came. The low, steady hum of an engine. Not footsteps. The headlights, blinding in the semi-darkness of the alley, cut through the curtain of rain. It was growing, approaching quickly. A black van. Large, windowless, with a matte, impenetrable body. It pulls into the alley, its tires softly splashing through the puddles, and stops 10 meters away, blocking the exit. The engine is still running, idling, adding its bass rumble to the noise of the downpour. Amira's instincts are faster than her thoughts. Her body turns. She takes 2 quick steps, once again positioning herself between Minho and the new arrival. The flashlight is once again clutched in her hand, ready for use. Her free hand is pulled back, as if telling Minho to remain silent and still. Her back is tense. It's the classic stance of a bodyguard, shielding their charge. The van's side rear doors swing open simultaneously, with a sharp mechanical sound. 3 people emerge from the van. Or rather, they tumble out and line up. Amira recognizes them. They're the same 3. The one who was the leader, Lee. The one who fell into the puddle first. And the third, the one Minho hit in the neck. But they look different now. Their faces, just minutes ago distorted by anger, pain, or fury, are now blank. There's no emotion, no sign of struggle. They stand, wet, in the rain, at attention. Their gazes are fixed forward, not at Amira, but somewhere beyond her. They show no aggression whatsoever. Then, as if on cue, all 3 bowed their heads in unison. Shallow, but distinct, polite, the gesture was directed toward Minho. Silence hangs in the air, broken only by the sound of the engine and the rain. Amira freezes. Her brain refuses to process what she's seeing. She glances at the 3 of them, then quickly, over her shoulder, at Minho. He doesn't look surprised. He doesn't even move. He simply stares at his former bullies with the same icy, analytical expression. A trap? A setup? But for what purpose? To lure her in? Or, "It was a test," Minho says. His voice comes from right behind her, calm and clear. He doesn't raise his voice, but every word falls like a drop of ice water on her skin. Amira slowly turns to him, not taking her attention completely off the 3 of them. Her face is a mask of incomprehension and growing anger. "A security check for this area," he continues, as if reading a report. "The plan was simple. They create an incident. My men observe from hidden vantage points, recording the response times of internal patrols and external services. Assessing weaknesses." He pauses, his gaze sliding over the motionless figures near the van. "Until you intervened, you weren't part of the equation." He looks at Amira again. There's no gratitude in his eyes. There's the cold irritation of a scientist whose pristine experiment has been ruined by a random factor. "You entered the control zone. You neutralized 3 of my trained employees. You changed the outcome of the checkpoint. Now all the data from this evening is irrelevant. You are a variable. Unplanned. Uncontrollable." He says this without emotion. Amira hears the words, but their meaning sinks in slowly. Test, employees, checkpoint. This whole fight, her determination, the risk, it was all a drill? A performance? And then she burst onto the stage and outsmarted everyone. The feeling of devastation gives way to a wave of searing humiliation, followed by pure cold rage. She's been used. Her principles, her willingness to stand up for injustice, all of it has become part of some corporate test. Minho tears his gaze away from her. He glances at the black van. Then he steps forward, past Amira. He walks not toward the street exit, but straight toward the open doors of the car. He stops without turning around, his words flying over his shoulder, even and unquestionable. "You have 2 choices now. You get into this van, voluntarily, then we'll go somewhere safe and discuss your future. We'll discuss how to remove you, the uncontrollable variable, from my equation, without creating more problems." He turns around for a moment, his profile sharp against the headlights. "Or you stay here, in this alley, and then," he nods slightly toward his 3 men, "they'll complete their initial exercise. Unscripted, unrestricted, for real. They're motivated. You've publicly humiliated them. They're waiting for a chance to restore their reputation." He turns fully to face her, rain pouring down his face. "The choice is yours. But this isn't a job offer. This is bringing the situation to a controlled conclusion. You entered my world uninvited. Now you will play by its rules, or disappear from it." He waits. The 3 men by the van stare silently at Amira. Their empty eyes no longer seem empty, but simply devoid of any humanity, ready to carry out any order. The van's engine hums steadily. Amira stands, clutching the lantern. Rage boils within her. She's been tricked, lured. Now they're giving her an ultimatum. But beneath the anger, a cool trickle of common sense breaks through. She's just dealt with them single-handedly when they were playing. But they won't play now. And the van could be full of others like her. Run away? Perhaps. But he said disappear. That doesn't mean leave. It means they'll find her. She has no choice. Not now. She throws the lantern. It bounces into a puddle with a dull clang. She looks Minho in the eyes, and her gaze now burns not just with hatred for the bullies, but with a new, more personal hatred for him. Silently, gritting her teeth, she takes a step towards the van. The van doors close behind her with a dull, sealed click. It's almost silent inside. The sound of rain and the street is confined to the outside. The air smells of plastic, cleanliness, and a faint hint of ozone. This isn't a cargo hold. It's a closed-off interior, upholstered in soft, dark material. There are no windows. 2 rows of seats line the sides, like in a movie theater. Up front, a dark glass partition separates the driver. Lee and the other 2 don't go inside. They stay outside. Only Amira and Minho are in the salon. Minho walks forward and sits down on the seat opposite her, his back to the cab. He turns on the wall lamp. A soft light falls from above, illuminating his face and the space between them. Amira remains standing by the door. She feels a slight movement as the van starts to move. Her balance automatically adjusts, her legs spreading slightly wider. "Sit down," he says. Not an order, but a statement. Standing here is pointless. Amira sinks into the nearest chair. It's soft and deep. She sits on the edge, her back straight, not leaning. Her hands rest on her lap, palms up, a gesture of openness, but also of readiness. Minho studies her. Now, in the light, he sees details. Age, around 30. Good physical condition, hidden under a wet jacket. His gaze doesn't wander around the cabin, but fixates on him. Control. "Are you in the military? Former?" he asks. Amira is silent. She stares at him unblinkingly. Sharing information with him now would be like handing over bullets. Useless and dangerous. He accepts her silence as an answer. He nods, as if confirming something for himself. "It doesn't matter," he says, waving his hand. "Origin is secondary now. What matters is the result. You just publicly, in the dirt and in front of me, humiliated 3 of my best people. One of them, Lee, is the head of the operational control group. His authority is based on impeccability." He pauses, giving his words weight. "You've destroyed that perfection. Now, in his eyes, in the eyes of his team, and, more importantly, in the eyes of anyone who might have guessed anything, he's lost to a random passerby. His reputation, and therefore his usefulness to me, is at risk." The van turns smoothly, Amira leaning slightly to maintain her balance. The movement is smooth and professional. "Now there are 2 ways to fix this," Minho continues. His voice is perfectly calm, as if discussing logistics. "First, you start working for me. Your skills become part of my structure. If you work for me, then your victory over my people ceases to be their shame. It becomes a demonstration of the quality of my new recruits. Their reputation is restored. They didn't lose to a random girl, but to a new, valuable asset. There's logic to that, and they'll accept it." He crosses his legs, his wet coat showing traces of mud from the alley. The second option, they fix the situation themselves, by eliminating the source of the humiliation. That is, you. It will be clean, quick, and will restore their status. But it will create unnecessary noise. I don't like noise. He looks at her, waiting for a reaction. An ultimatum presented as a logical problem. Work for him or disappear. There's essentially no choice. "I hate bullies," Amir repeats, quietly but clearly. "And manipulators, too." He almost smiles. A thin line touches the corner of his mouth for a split second. "Okay, hate is an acceptable motivation. It's predictable. I prefer predictability." The van stops. The engine dies. They haven't been driving long, maybe 20 minutes. Minho doesn't move. A minute later, the back doors open from the outside. El is standing there. His face is still blank. He steps aside, making way. "Come out," Minho says. Amira steps out. They're in a vast, deserted area in front of a warehouse complex. Tall corrugated metal hangers recede into the darkness. The rain has slowed to a light drizzle. The air smells of rust, machine oil, and damp earth. Not a soul in sight. Only a few dim lanterns on tall masts create islands of light in a sea of shadows. Minho follows, standing nearby, oblivious to the dampness. See that third warehouse? The one with the red stripe, he says, nodding toward the huge, dark building. Amira looks, nods. Inside is one of my couriers, a young man. He's been taken hostage by rivals from a gang in the eastern docks. They want to disrupt a deal to show they can get my people. He's chained to a pipe in the center of the room. There are 4 guards, armed. He turns to her, his eyes cold. Your job is to go inside, free him, and bring him back to me safe and sound, on your own, without any outside help. Amira looks at the dark silhouette of the warehouse, then at him. This is my test, she says, not as a question, but as a statement. This is the first task. If you succeed, you will prove yourself worth more than the trouble you've caused. If not, he doesn't finish. The consequences are clear. She will die there trying to complete the task, or she will fail, and her fate will be decided by those she humiliated. Why should I believe he's even there? Amira asks. Because you have nothing to lose but a chance, Minho replies. And because I don't waste time lying about things like this. You have an hour. After that, my men will move in to clean up the mess. Whether you're alive or not. He turns away and walks back to the van. Lee gives her one last blank look and follows her boss. The doors close. The van pulls away smoothly and disappears into the darkness, leaving Amira alone in the vacant lot in front of a huge, dark warehouse. Amira doesn't move immediately. She stands, listening. Only the wind and drizzle. No shouts, no sounds from the warehouse. She moves closer, keeping to the shadows. The warehouse is old. The large truck gates are locked with a massive padlock. The side door for the staff is also locked. But one of the chest-level windows is broken. The glass has been removed. A trap or a way? Too obvious. She doesn't climb through the window. She inspects the perimeter. She finds an electrical panel on the wall. Old, rusty. She opens it. Inside are a meter and circuit breakers, and the main switch. She also sees a primitive box labeled generator. Wires from it run along the wall and disappear into cracks near the foundation. She has no weapons, just a flashlight on her keys, a box cutter in her jacket pocket, and her skills. She makes a decision. Not strength, but chaos. The first thing she does is yank the main switch in the panel. There's no spark, but something clicks loudly inside. All the dim lights on the landing go out. Now, only the faint glow of distant city lights and the moon from behind the clouds can be seen. Then she finds the pipe that holds the generator box. She grabs a piece of rebar lying on the ground and hits the connection hard. The metal screeches. She hits it again until the wire breaks. Now even the warehouse's emergency power, if there was one, is dead. Complete darkness and silence. A few seconds later, a muffled shout comes from inside the warehouse. Then another. Voices. They heard a click and are now in darkness. Amira waits. She hears the door creak. Someone peers out. Then footsteps. A man comes out to check the control panel. He passes a meter away but doesn't notice, blending into the shadows of the wall. As soon as he leans over the shield, she acts. She doesn't attack him. She quickly and silently slips inside through the door he opened. Inside it smells of dust, oil, and damp. The darkness is almost absolute, but her eyes are beginning to adjust. She sees a vast, empty space, columns, and in the center, a faint outline, like a person sitting on the floor. Around her, shadows move. Guards. Her eyes can't see them either. She crouches down and takes off her jacket. She feels a spot of something slippery on the floor. Spilled motor oil. She places her jacket, dark side up, on the edge of the spot. Then she crawls to the side, toward the wall, where she sees a hand winch mechanism and a heavy chain hanging from a beam. She carefully removes the chain. The links are heavy and cold. One of the guards, nervously, turns on a flashlight. The beam darts across the walls. "Quiet!" another voice hisses. The beam snatches Amira's jacket, lying near a puddle of oil. It looks like a fallen shadow. "There!" whisper. The 2 men begin to slowly approach the jacket, one holding a flashlight aimed at it. They step on the edge of the oil slick. Their feet slip. One of them falls with a dull thud and a curse. The flashlight falls and rolls, the beam spinning madly. At that moment, Amira throws the heavy chain across the room with all her might. It hits the metal door with a deafening crash and falls to the concrete. All attention and guns, if there are any, instantly turn toward the sound. "Behind you!" someone shouts. While the 3 remaining guards are disoriented, trying to figure out the source of the threat, Amira creeps toward the central figure. She uses the sound of their own footsteps and cursing as cover. A young man sits in the center of the room, by a thick supporting column. His eyes are wide with fear. His hand is handcuffed to a metal pipe running along the column. Seeing a shadow approaching, he tries to move away. "Quiet," Amira whispers, kneeling before him. She places a finger on her lips. He freezes, nods, trembles. She examines the handcuffs. Standard police steel. No key. She pulls out 2 bobby pins from her pocket, the ones she always keeps in her hair in case she needs to secure something while out on the road. She bends one, snapping it in half. The sound of approaching footsteps filled my ears. The guards came to their senses, realizing the diversion. The flashlight was searching for them again. Amira inserts the bent piece of the pin into the keyhole of the handcuffs. Her fingers work quickly, by feel. She feels the pins. She uses the second piece of the pin as a lever. Her breathing is even. It's a basic skill, honed hundreds of times. In the field, in the dark, against the clock. Click. The first bracelet comes unfastened. "Idiot! She's already here!" A scream comes from very close. The flashlight beam glides along the column, about to cover them. Click. The second bracelet opens. Amira abruptly pulls the young man to his feet. "Run to the door I came through. Don't look back." He nods, hesitates for a second, then breaks into the darkness. At that moment, the flashlight beam finds them. Amira pushes the guy in the back, sending him running, and turns to face the threat. The man with the flashlight is almost upon them. Amira can't see the weapon in his hands, but she can see his posture, ready to strike. Amira rushes to the side door she entered through, pushing the rescued courier ahead of her. She steps out onto the damp landing, expecting to see a vacant lot or Minho's van pulling up. Instead, right in front of the door, under one of the dim streetlights, stands L. He's alone. His arms hang at his sides, his posture relaxed, but the readiness is palpable in every muscle. There's no malice or emptiness in his face, just a cold concentration. The young courier freezes behind Amira. "Go to the main gate. They're waiting there," L says, not looking at the boy. His gaze is fixed on Amira. The courier, confused, but obeying the tone, starts running in the indicated direction. "The rules have changed," L says, once the guy is out of sight. "The boss wants to see your skills in the field. No tricks, no traps. Against me. Honestly." Amira exhales slowly. So, all of this, the warehouse, the hostage, was the second part of the test. The real exam, now, graduation. "Why?" she asks, assessing the distance between them. "To measure you," Lee replies. "I am the standard. If you pass, your place will be determined. If not," he doesn't finish. He takes a stance, feet shoulder-width apart, one leg slightly forward, weight centered. The classic foundation of Hapkido. He attacks first. A quick, sharp kick forward, level with her knee. Not to hurt, but to test her reaction. Amira takes a half step back, blocking the blow with her forearm. The blow is hard, sending pain all the way to her elbow. Immediately after this, Elle moves in, trying to grab her by the collar and sleeve for a throw. Amira doesn't resist the grab. She moves toward him, closing the distance to 0, depriving him of leverage. Her forehead hits the bridge of his nose, not with full force, but sharp enough to distract him. He stumbles back, and she uses his momentum. Her hands grab his wrist and elbow, a sharp twist of her body, and she tries a hip throw. But Elle is no novice. He resists, pulling her toward him, breaking her posture. The fight devolves into a series of short, brutal exchanges. Lee employs Hapkido, circular movements, wrist locks, and pressure points. Amira responds with a mix of judo, trying to utilize his weight, and Krav Maga, straightforward, effective strikes at close range. Elbows, knees, and the heel of the hand. He tries to apply an armbar. She twists free, kicks his shin with her heel. He grunts but doesn't let go, trying to choke her with his forearm from behind. She elbows him in the ribs, stomps on his foot, and slips out of the hold. They're both breathing heavily. Lee attacks again, more aggressively. With a series of quick palm strikes, she parries, deflects, but one blow slips off her shoulder. The second hits her side. Pain pierces, but she suppresses it, concentrating. He lunges to grab her. It's a mistake. There's a bit of anger in his aggression. For the alley, for making him look weak. Amira sees this impulse. She doesn't back away. She meets him. As he reaches out, she grabs his forearm and stumbles backward, falling backwards and pulling him down with her. It's a flurry, a fall throw. Lee flies over her, losing his balance. She immediately springs up as he lands on his back. He tries to get up, but she's already on top of him. Her knee is digging into his back, her hand pinning his shoulder blade. She's pinning his face to the wet asphalt, leaning on it with all her weight. He tries to break free, but the pain in his joint freezes him. The fight is over. It lasted less than 3 minutes. Lee lies there, breathing heavily. Amira holds him tightly, waiting for him to surrender. After a few seconds, his body goes limp. He slams his free palm on the ground twice, a surrender signal in some martial arts. She slowly lets go of his hand and takes a step back, again assuming a defensive stance. Lee rises slowly. He wipes the dirt from his face. His nose is slightly swollen, and a thin trickle of blood runs from one nostril. He looks at her. There's no longer any cold assessment in his eyes. There's a tired professional recognition. "Okay," he says hoarsely, straightening his jacket. "We weren't eating dirt for nothing. The boss wasn't wrong." He turns and walks into the darkness, where the same black van is parked. He doesn't say, "Follow me." He simply waits for her to follow. This time, Minho is alone inside the van. He hands her a small paper bag. Inside is a modern smartphone, keys, and a credit card. A phone! Only one number in memory. Apartment keys. A card to an office building on 10th Avenue, 18th floor. Your new role begins now. The van drives through the city at night. You're no longer a field unit. You're my personal security coordinator. Your job is to analyze. Check every route I take the day before departure. Study the locations of all meetings. Analyze security footage, if you have access. Look for holes in the schedule, in the logistics, in the people. He looks at her. You found that hole in the alley yesterday. I want you to find all the others, the ones my people, accustomed to routine, can't reach. You'll be my eyes, watching from the outside. A daily report, every evening. The next day, Amira sits in a small but well-equipped office on the 18th floor. Several monitors stand before her. One displays archived footage from the security cameras outside Minho's office for the past week. She reviews them methodically, face by face. She pauses the recording, zooms in. A man in a cap and dark glasses stands at a newsstand across from the entrance. He's not looking at the papers. He's looking at the door. She fast-forwards. He shows up there 3 days in a row at the same time, an hour before Minho arrives. His face is covered, but his posture, the way he holds his head, there's something familiar. She switches to another archive, camera footage from the driveway of the warehouse complex on the night of the exam. There, in the crowd of supposed invaders, was one guy who participated least in the chaos, more of an observer. She places the images side by side. Different times, different clothes, but the height, the width of the shoulders, the shape of the skull, and most importantly, the gesture. In the warehouse, this man nervously scratched the back of his left hand with the thumb of his right, a peculiar, repetitive gesture. And now, in the recording, outside the office, the man at the kiosk makes that very gesture. He scratches the back of his left hand. This isn't a competitor. He's too well informed about Minho's schedule. He doesn't attack. He observes and reports. An internal threat, a traitor in their ranks. Late that evening, Amira returns to her new apartment, clean, furnished, and impersonal. She's just finished compiling her first report for Minho, including screenshots and her suspicions. She's getting ready for bed when she hears a quiet but distinct sound at the front door. It's not a doorbell. First, a scratching sound, then a dull thud near the lock. Her body freezes. It wasn't Elle and his people. They would have called or used their key. She moves away from the door, silently slipping deeper into the apartment. The living room is small. There are no weapons. There are knives at the kitchen, but forcing her way through the door now would be suicide. There's a second, louder thud. The door creaks. Plan B kicks in. She can't win here. She has to survive and escape to get the information out. The door bursts open with a bang. 3 men burst in. Large men, dressed in dark clothes, with their faces covered. The first one sees her and walks straight ahead. Amira grabs a heavy glass rolling pin from the table, lying around since morning. Without aiming, she throws it at the first man's face. He instinctively covers himself, and she, taking advantage of his confusion, snatches her leather belt from the back of the chair. The metal buckle is heavy. The second attacker tries to grab her. She retreats behind the dining table, slamming her belt hard against his hands. The buckle leaves a bloody streak. He screams and jumps back. The third one overturns the table, trying to get to her. The table falls. She jumps back, but trips over the leg of a chair. She falls backwards. The first attacker is already on top of her. She twists, kicks him in the knee with her heel, grabs the fallen chair and slams it down on his legs with all her might. She rises. The second attacker pulls out something resembling a baton. She doesn't stand a chance in a direct confrontation. Her target is the hallway leading to the bedroom and, possibly, the fire escape window. She checked it during the day. She retreats, fighting back with a belt and a broken chair. She enters the corridor, where the space is narrower. Here, their superior numbers matter less. One of them follows her into the narrow corridor. She slams the broken chair against him again. At that moment, the sounds of a fast, brutal struggle echo from the landing behind her. Muffled thuds, crunching sounds, a muffled scream that cuts off. Then more steps. Heavy, fast. The man in the hallway in front of her turns at the new sound, his attention wandering. L appears from the open apartment door onto the stairwell. His knuckles are bloody. There's a dark stain on his jacket. He appears calm, but his breathing is slightly faster than usual. Behind him in the hallway, the two other attackers lie motionless. He looks at the man remaining in front of Amira. "Go away," says L quietly. "Tell your master that the gift was not accepted." The attacker, having assessed the situation, slowly retreats towards the broken door, then goes out onto the stairs and disappears. Lee turns to Amira. She's still holding the broken chair, her hands shaking with adrenaline. "The boss sent you?" she says hoarsely. "It's not a question. He said you must be tired. After your evening exercises." His voice was dry. "Take me to the car. Let's get out of here. This place is no longer safe." He waits for her to lower the improvised weapon and take a step towards him. Minho doesn't wait. The next morning, he acts. Amira unveils a plan. The traitor, a security guard named Chin, is accustomed to transmitting data at 8 in the morning at a small cafe on the corner. The place is crowded, but there's a secluded nook near the restrooms. Lee and two of his men can enter from the back and take him while he's handing over the phone, quickly and quietly. At 7:50, Lee reports, "Chin hasn't shown up. He sensed surveillance. The plan is a failure." Then Amira suggests a new option. The traitor knows her by sight. She becomes an open target. She follows her usual morning route to the office, which Chin surely knows. Lee and his team covertly surround the area, monitoring every alley and entrance. On a narrow pedestrian bridge over a canal, 4 men attack her. Not Chin. Mercenaries. They come at her hard, without argument. It's a dirty street fight. Amira retreats, using the railings and the narrow space, parrying blows, responding with short, painful counterattacks. Her goal is to hold out and pull them down, under the bridge arch. She takes a blow to the side, but keeps moving. Under the bridge, the attackers are suddenly and silently neutralized by Lee's team. Chin is found hiding in a car nearby. He is brought to Minho's empty office. Amira stands nearby. Chin looks at her with hatred. "She changed all your algorithms," he tells Minho. "You've become predictable. She's the weak link." Minho looks at Amira, at her bruise, at her clenched fists. He nods. "It's true. You are chaos, an unpredictable variable. You disrupt the established order." He pauses. "But you are my chaos, and his order," he nods at Chin, "led to betrayal." Amira receives more than just trust. She receives resources. A small group of 4 people, like her, former military personnel who don't fit into the clan's rigid hierarchy. Her task is to create a new parallel security system, to revise everything: routes, protocols, personnel. Late that evening, reviewing archival footage for analysis, Amira replays footage from the rooftops around that first alley. She freezes the frame. On the neighboring rooftop, in the shadow of a ventilation shaft, stands a man. Not one of Minho's people. He's watching through binoculars. The entire scene in the alley, behind her. She zooms in. No faces visible. Only a silhouette. She checks the time. He appeared a minute before the check began and disappeared a minute after they left. She leans back in her chair. The game is just beginning, and now both she and Minho are in someone's crosshairs.